maybe since you mentioned Bitcoin and Coinbase, I remember when I was studying at UC Berkeley, we had John Doerr, or he gave a lecture, and he can always tell the Google story, right? And I wondered, if can Adam always tell the Coinbase story? Just like if we forecast, can Adam at 60 come to university if I have children and say I invested in Coinbase, and also tell the story because it's a great story? But I just think it's an interesting question because maybe it could be that story, right?
You, you know, what's interesting is, first, yes. And the reason is, I believe they have a compounding moat that will continue to grow in that space of onboarding the world to a decentralized financial platform. And I believe it's going to be bigger than anyone's ever could imagine. And I think it's, not a $100 billion company. I think it's $1 trillion company. And I think it's, they're doing something that is truly important. But I think it's interesting for two reasons. One is, I always thought about venture capital when as I was growing up, and I realized at some point that all VCs were defined by one or two deals. Like my dad was able to point at Skype, Hotmail, like those were hey, I'm known for Skype, and that's the beacon thing, right? Like you become a beacon because of those things. My dad, by the way, since has, I wrote a whole tweet storm on how my dad's the GOAT of venture capital because he just absolutely destroyed it in the last 10 years. But what was interesting was everyone kept saying, do you realize you made the most life changing and career defining investment of your life? And I kept saying, boy, I hope not. And not because I think I still am very bullish on Coinbase. I think it's got a lot of legs to run, and I think people don't quite understand how important it is yet. But it's because I still got a lot of legs to run too. I got some more investing to do. So So my answer is, I do believe that Coinbase will be one of the category defining companies that I will always be able to point to. I also hope that some of the other companies who I believe are solving incredibly important problems will also be.
Is it too wild to say out loud that you want to be like the first investor on Mars or something? Do you feel too young to say that? Or do you actually think there's a chance? Like, if you're trying to be honest about the question and be realistic.
Okay, so I've thought about this a fair amount, and so good question. Not about being the first investor on Mars. I think there's a question of, do you want to go to Mars? Like that's a question. And so I had this vivid dream. And I've backed a bunch of space companies. I'm very excited about the exploration of space. I think it's a place where if you don't want to be on Earth, you have a chance to go somewhere else, and that's exciting. And we were on the ship, and we went, and it was the whole years you're in space or whatever to get to Mars, and then we get there. And you know what? Not much happens on Mars. It's a little boring. And I was there, and I was like, I'm a little bored. And then I got on another ship and went back to Earth. And I was like, that was really interesting. I wouldn't have expected that. But I think I'm meant to be on Earth. And so I don't think I'm going to be the first investor on Mars. Now, am I going to be the first investor who flies a jetpack on Earth? Probably. Am I going to be the first investor who, might go to the moon? Maybe. Am I going to be the first investor who does a deal at the bottom of the ocean? Probably. I would say I feel there's a lot of exploration left to do on Earth. And I still am definitely going to be supporting founders going into space, and I hope they get there and they enable others to get there. I just realized recently I'm probably not going to be leaving Earth anytime soon.
There is a very great analogy because coming from Norway, we have such rich polar history. So Amundsen was the first in Antarctica. And if you read those documents on how that felt, that trip, it wasn't a good trip, right? It was terrible.
Mm.
It was like the worst pain you can feel. So probably you can relate that to being the first people on Mars, right? But
Yeah,
I think
like someone's gonna be great at that. I just realized I don't think I'm the person who's gonna be great at it. Like and so I'm like, hey, we'll leave it to, you know, when there's new arcades on Mars or something, I'll go there. Like that'll be my move.
you basically be the I'm not saying this is in a bad way, but maybe you can be the Richard Branson in Mars and be like the guy when the thing is cleared, you can have some fun and do some investing, etc. But let's have a great topic. If you pair space exploration with ocean exploration, and you pair Ocean X, Ray Dalio stuff, with Elon Musk, SpaceX stuff, and let's say that Fed actually have a limited supply. We know you don't have that. You can print as much money as you want, it seems, so you can fund both the ocean and space. But if you are capped limit-wise on the capital, where would you like to bring the money? Do you feel like ocean is vastly undiscovered yet? And after you answer that, please add on Tony, John, and Manoline guys, etc.
So this is again something I've thought a lot about in the past, which was my question was less who deserves more than why does space get so much? And and the reason it turned out was both NOAA, which is this is US focused conversation. So NOAA is the National Oceanic Association I forget what the last A stands for. And then NASA, both were founded around the same time. Like these two government agencies, one was focused on space, one was focused on the ocean. But when JFK was president, it turned out NASA captured the imagination of the people, saying this, and also Sputnik captured the competition of the people, where suddenly we to be, you know, American, you needed to be like, yes, we have to go to space. And then NOAA actually had a couple failed things that happened in NOAA, like a couple of people died on these submerged, living underneath the water things. And so there was a bunch of failed stuff and a bunch of successful stuff. And obviously the money's going to go more towards the successful things, especially the things that are capturing your imagination. Now that stuff compounded over the last, since whatever, 1960 is like absolute, it's crazy how much more funding NASA gets now. And so that's obviously the imbalance. Like we don't have credible scans of the entire ocean. We still don't know what's down there. We, in 2020, discovered a new breed of orca whale. Like the orcas aren't like some tiny bacteria in the ocean, right? Like orca whale is like it's a gigantic, it's a whale, right?
Because you're talking about the Mariana Trench, right? So just for people who want to YouTube Mariana Trench, they can also see if you go deep enough down, like it's a lot.
It's also just like it's like as deep as Everest is tall or whatever. Like there's just so much yet to be discovered in not only like everywhere. Like I think that there's just tons of stuff that's been undecided. And once you start diving in here, by the way, what led me to the ocean as a thesis, which I think it's yet to be discovered by most venture capitalists, is, well, first, there's this very simple fact that 80% of the planet is ocean, and we know nothing about it. Like that is a world I like to play in. I like to play in the uncertain and unknown. And like where there's uncertain and unknown, eventually people create standards, and you can make a lot of money. You can also create a lot of innovation. And then the second thing was, one of the things was, every person I talked to was so who was working in ocean startups. was so passionate about the ocean. They defined themselves. Their identity was wrapped up in being a part of the ocean. And they've been oceanographers for 13 years. They've been, like it's these amazing stories of, I've cruised, I've crossed the Atlantic Ocean 7 times. Like every single founder was like obsessed in some capacity. But the primary reason that I got to the ocean was I had this, I went deep on climate change. And and if you go deep on climate change, what first you have to make a decision. Do you believe the climate is changing because of humans or not? Or first, is the climate changing? Yes or no? Then is it because of humans? And then why is it because of humans? And so my answer to why is it because of humans, after I got through the top funnel, was I was like, well, the ocean, if you read any science book from like 7th grade, the ocean is the regulator of the Earth's temperature, and it's sick. Like the simplest version of what I can say in my thesis is like the ocean's sick. There's a lot of plastic in it, but there's a lot of opportunity too. And so what can we do to make us care about the ocean? Which has led me to a thesis around ocean ownership. I believe that we need to create an ownership model for the ocean. And I believe it's my 30-year project, basically. Like, it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a lot of, resilience. And eventually, I believe you or I will be able to own plots of ocean land. And because we own it, we'll take care of it, right? Like, that's how it works. And so I believe it's an economics problem, not a technology problem.